look at the modern Middle East, the growth of the development of Dubai and all these Gulf kingdoms was largely enabled by India, Indian diaspora going there and doing things. So to a large extent, when you go and meet them, they own these diaspora. And many of these chaps have started, our own guys have started living there permanently. One. Number two, rightly, our energy dependence on the Gulf is very high. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we are dependent and we are an energy deficient country. So that's it. And it's the nearest for us. We've always had a good standing in the Middle East. Though the word trust is not to be used in international relations, it's only interest. I understand that. But a lot of people in the Middle East felt that India is a country which can be trusted or relied upon and it was a benign country. Okay. Now, given that, you see the churn which has gone on in the Middle East itself, with the British interests coming in, their own internal change which has occurred within the Middle East and things like that. And the fact that fossil fuels have only that much more to last, and the requirement of the Middle East and the Gulf kingdoms there to diversify, they need diversification and they need a different kind of a control. I think they tried it with China and they've not been successful there. So they are getting back to India. So there's a lot of cooperation between India and the Gulf today, which again is something at a level which we've not seen so far. Right? So that's why you see this pact between UAE and India, also Saudi Arabia and India, notwithstanding everything else. Our only problem in the broader West Asia is Turkey. For whatever reason, Turkey is a problem for us. Right? We have good equations with Iran also. It's surprisingly, this is one place where USA has not used India. We have a good footprint in Iran, which we can. So we have good, equities all around. That itself gives you the protection. And the fact that they want to invest into India of late. Okay. Then this thing of the I2U2 deals, or for that matter, the Abraham Accords, that's changed the things a lot with Israel. And with this IMEC now seemingly likely to come up, right? The India-Middle East Economic Corridor, and Europe requiring that, and Europe making way for it. So things will change, right? You look at it militarily, even in the past 1 year, which were the two dominant navies which were operating in this area? Red Sea was US, UK, the allies, whichever you call, the NATO forces, whatever you call, the Western forces. Outside, along the coast of Africa, it was the Indian Navy. No one else. Right. So we have equities here where we put our, we put our military on the job. We put our diplomacy on the job. And things are growing. And as Indian, trade increases, footprint increases, we're making new headways into Africa also. Because especially North Africa, which you can't diverse from the Middle East fully. Now with this EU deal coming through, things will get tighter. In fact, it will become more, relevant. The Middle East itself will become more relevant. And the IMEC will be driven largely by EU and India, with Saudi Arabia, Israel, and UAE tacking on. And they're doing it. It's going to happen.
Okay. Well, having said that, though, Ravi, if President Trump were to initiate military action against Iran, I mean, how would India respond? I mean, I would argue that with this IMEC plan, it might not be that easy to integrate the Ayatollahs in this broader strategic economic corridor that you're speaking of. It would be better for a different form of government in Tehran to give the stability necessary for the whole IMAC thing to go ahead. So what would New Delhi do if the bombs start falling all over Iran? Would they condemn this act? Would they remain neutral? Would they quietly manage the fallout? What would they do?
See, Iran, we understand Iran well. And what has happened between Iran and Israel and with this, those bombs which went into Fordo and Natanz,
Yeah, yeah.
we know that we've handled that. So same thing will happen again.
Mm,
That's the first thing, right? We have no problem. But having said that, we know, and in any case, the IMEC and that corridor was never, Iran was never part of it. Iran was never a threat to that,
mm.
right? But having said that, personally, I feel that the Ayatollah regime in Iran has gone past its sell-by date.
Yeah, sure.
How they change is a issue, and it's not going to be easy because as many as people are there in Iran who are not for the Ayatollahs, there are that many who are for the Ayatollahs. Whatever Trump is doing is only for his own sake for the nuclear status of Iran, and that tomorrow Iran doesn't become another North Korea.
Right.
That's it. And the second fact is that he can control Iran's oil. These are the two issues, right? That's a thing between Iran and the Western world and Iran and USA. It's been very clear between the two of us that we are not going to interfere in this. But I personally feel that this thing should change and it will change. It's a matter of time. After all, that Ayatollah can't live forever. I mean, there's no succession there, and that succession war, something will happen. And let's recognize Trump is putting immense pressure on Iran. Where are the talks at this point of time stuck? Military action versus a deal. If a deal happens, this doesn't happen. Will military actions go in for a deal? And where's the deal stuck? Iran wants a nuclear deal plus de-sanctions, or rather, removal of sanctions. USA is not prepared to do that. They want just a deal and no sanctions removal. So I think if they can resolve that, things will happen. Personally, I don't think much will happen there.
As a military man, are you betting in favor of military action against the Ayatollahs?
No,
You're not.
I'm not. I'm not. You have to have a deal. At this point of time, both have positions which they never had earlier. Iran is
Mm.
prepared to talk nuclear, but Iran also wants removal of sanctions. USA says I only want a nuclear deal. I'm not talking of sanctions on oil. And it would do well for USA to say, okay, remove the sanctions and start controlling Iran oil so that then, see again the larger thing. Today, China is buying Iran oil at about 30 to 40% discount and selling its items to Iran at 30 to 40% markup. So if this oil comes into the market, it helps the overall cost and it stabilizes the region. So it would be wise on the part of Mr. Trump to go in for a deal. And I think he'll do that.
Salvatore, is a deal possible with the Ayatollahs? I get a sense that, I get where Ravi's coming from. I think that basically the Ayatollahs have long past their use by date, and I think that no one would shed a tear if they were to disappear tomorrow. But if the idea of a deal is on the table, doesn't this re-legitimize the Ayatollahs in a strange way? And won't this put the Iranian people who are busily protesting the Ayatollahs against the US and its interests in Iran?
John, I'm going to pull a politician on you and answer the question you should have asked instead of the question you asked. Look, I know nothing about Iran and I know nothing about the Ayatollahs, and I really can't give an answer to that. What I'd like to
Uh,
give you is an answer to the previous question about India and the Middle East.
okay.
General Shankar said that that relationship goes back millennia, and that's true. But we don't have to go to the mists of time. In the 18th century, the language of government in India was Persian, at least in
Mm.
North India.
Yeah, that's right.
In the 19th century, Oman and Yemen were governed from India, not
Mm.
directly from Britain. In the 20th century, the troops who fought the Ottoman Empire on behalf of the British were Indian troops. It was Punjabis fighting in Iraq, not a bunch of people from England who formed the bulk of the army in Iraq. After independence, these ties and they're also deep cultural ties. So the Islam ties, we tend to think of, Pakistan is the, Muslim country of South Asia. No, the cultural center of Islam in the subcontinent is in India. The Deobandi movement, which is a massive Muslim reform movement that ultimately inspired the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, is an Indian movement. It comes from the east of India, even the whole other side of India. That is the intellectual center of Islam in the South Asian region, in the Indian subcontinent, is not in the areas that became part of Pakistan or in the areas that became part of Bangladesh, but in the areas that remained inside India. So there are very strong cultural, very strong economic, very strong historical ties between India and especially the Arab Middle East. I'm not as familiar with ties between India and the Persian Middle East. I don't know as much about Iran, but in the Arab world, the Indian, not only the business influence, the cultural influence, and we always forget, because we think of India as a Hindu country. India is a 200 million strong Muslim country. And the Indian Muslim cultural influence in the Middle East is, I would dare say, much stronger than the Pakistani Muslim cultural influence in the Middle East, despite the fact that after partition, it was Pakistani pilots who flew Saudi Arabia's jets. I mean, that era is long gone. The cultural connection is more close, I think, to India than to Pakistan.
Let me give you a modern thing. Till the mid 80s, maybe even 90s, Bahrain's postage stamps used to be Indian. The Indian Post and Telegraph Department used to operate the Bahrain Post and Telegraph Department. Many places the currency was also Indian. So the connect is too deep. Pakistan is an upstart country. Pakistan has to still discover itself for many reasons. And this is something which many people in the West don't understand. Dubai was built by India. The actual guys who went and did the hard work was India, right? I mean, look at it. Even in the modern this thing, you have a temple in Dubai which is not there anywhere else in the Muslim world today. Recent. So there's a lot of flow between India and the Middle East.
And what I want to stress is not just the low-wage construction workers